Achievements fade, character endures. That simple truth is something most people learn too late. We spend so much of our energy trying to stack up accomplishments, to win awards, to gain applause, and to build RA-some-As that will impress others. Yet the very people we are trying to impress often cannot remember what we did, but they will never forget how we carried ourselves, how we lived, and how we treated them. Think about it. How many people can recite the names of Olympic champions from 50 years ago? How many can list the wealthiest business leaders from a generation past? Few can. Yet almost everyone can recall a teacher who encouraged them when they felt small, a parent or friend who stood beside them in a difficult season, or a neighbor who showed kindness when there was no reason to. The truth is, the achievements of others rarely stay in our minds, but the impact of someone's character never leaves us. Life's applause is temporary. Titles, promotions, and possessions belong to today, but tomorrow they belong to someone else. The shiny car, the corner office, the framed certificate, none of these last. They all fade with time. But what endures is the spirit with which you lived your life. Did you choose honesty when dishonesty would have been easier? Did you choose compassion when indifference cost nothing? Did you give hope when others had none? These moments of character are not forgotten. They become stories told about you, examples passed down, memories cherished by those whose lives you touched. The paradox of life is that we chase things that vanish and ignore the things that endure. We chase recognition, but recognition evaporates. We chase money, but money can be spent and lost. We chase status, but status fades as quickly as it rises. What does not fade is the way you lived, your integrity, your courage, your generosity, your ability to walk into a room and lift the atmosphere instead of poisoning it. This is why legacy is not written in stone monuments or plaques on a wall. Legacy is written in the hearts of people. You may not be remembered for closing the biggest deal at work, but you will be remembered for the way you encouraged a struggling colleague. You may not be remembered for buying the most beautiful house, but you will be remembered for opening that house to people who needed a meal or a place to feel safe. You may not be remembered for having the sharpest mind, but you will be remembered for having the kindest spirit. Ask yourself, what will endure when your achievements have faded? What story will people tell when your name comes up in conversation years after you are gone? Will they say, she was successful, and then struggle to remember the details? Or will they say, she was someone who lifted others, who stood for what was right, who lived in a way that inspired us all? That is the measure of a life well lived. Character is not built in the spotlight, it is built in the quiet choices we make each day. Every time you tell the truth when lying would protect you, you are building character. Every time you choose generosity over selfishness, you are building character. Every time you practice patience when anger would be easier, you are building character. And little by little, those choices create a life that people remember long after your achievements are forgotten. The world does not need more people who are only remembered for what they did. It needs more people who are remembered for how they lived. People who lived with courage, with kindness, with authenticity. People who left others better than they found them. People who, when their names are spoken, bring a smile and a sense of gratitude to those who remember them. So do not measure your life only by the things you achieve. Measure it by the character you cultivate, the lives you touch, and the example you leave behind. Achievements may fade, but character endures, and in the end, that is what truly matters. When we step back and reflect on life, it becomes clear that what lingers in people's memory isn't the list of things you achieved, but the way you made them feel along the way. The world is full of individuals who have built empires, collected titles, or gathered fortunes, yet when their names are mentioned, people pause and say, yes, they were successful, but what kind of person were they? That question is the real test of a life well lived. Impact is emotional, not material. People might admire your achievements, but admiration is temporary. Emotions, however, run deeper. A kind gesture, an encouraging word, or even the way you carried yourself with honesty and grace, that can stay etched in someone's heart for years. Think about it. You may not remember the exact advice a teacher gave you decades ago, but you remember the feeling of being believed in. You may not recall every detail of a friend's help during a hard time, but you remember the comfort of knowing you weren't alone. The truth is, the material things we accumulate, cars, houses, clothes, as gadgets lose their shine, they depreciate in value, get replaced, or fade into memory. Even our professional achievements, as meaningful as they seem today, eventually get replaced by the next wave of progress. Someone else takes over your role, someone else breaks your record, someone else earns the applause. But the impression of your spirit, your character, and your attitude leaves an imprint that outlasts the applause. Think of the people you respect most in life. Chances are, it's not because of the number of zeros in their bank account or the size of their array sum A. It's because they touched you emotionally. Maybe they treated you with dignity when others dismissed you. Maybe they showed patience when you were struggling. Maybe they carried themselves with such authenticity that you couldn't help but be inspired. Those things cannot be bought, and they cannot be forgotten. We live in a culture that often measures success in material terms, but if you build your life only on what you can count, dollars, followers, possessions, you'll miss the deeper currency that really matters. Emotional impact doesn't show up on a balance sheet, but it's what people will carry long after the numbers fade: the warmth of your smile, the generosity of your spirit, the courage you showed in adversity. These are the treasures that compound in people's hearts. Impact is not about doing something monumental in the world's eyes. It's about living in such a way that even in the smallest encounters, you leave people better than you found them. The stranger you helped across the street, the colleague you encouraged in a difficult season, the family member you forgave instead of resenting. All of these are small acts, but they carry emotional weight. They may seem invisible in the moment, but they live on in memory. We often chase the wrong kind of immortality. We think we'll be remembered for our accomplishments, but the truth is, time erases details. What remains is the echo of how you lived. Did you inspire? Did you uplift? Did you embody kindness when the world was cold? Those are the things that stand the test of time. So live with the understanding that your emotional impact is your greatest contribution. Build wealth if you can, achieve goals if you must, but never let them blind you to the deeper mission touching hearts. Because one day, when people gather to tell your story, they may not list your job titles or describe your possessions, but they will talk about the way you lived. And that, ultimately, is the measure of a life that mattered. Remember this: the footprints you leave are not pressed into the earth, they are pressed into people's hearts. And those prints, though invisible, last forever. Most people think their legacy is built in grand gestures or major accomplishments, but in truth, legacy is shaped in the small, ordinary moments of living. It's not just the one speech you gave, the one deal you closed, or the one milestone you reached that people will remember. What lasts in their hearts is how you lived every day in the small choices that revealed your character. Daily actions define legacy because they show who you really are when no one is watching and when there is nothing to gain. Think about it. If someone asked your family, your friends, or your colleagues to describe you, they wouldn't give a list of your achievements first. They would talk about how you treated people, how you showed up, and the energy you brought into the room. They would say you were generous or patient or disciplined, or maybe impatient, selfish, or distracted. What they describe has little to do with what you did once, and everything to do with how you live daily. Life is a collection of habits. If you are kind once, it's a moment. If you are kind every day, it becomes your reputation. If you are disciplined once, it's an event. If you are disciplined every day, it becomes your character. People don't remember isolated acts. They remember the pattern of your living. Legacy is not built in a day, it's built day by day. Many chase recognition and applause, but applause is short-lived. The same crowd that cheers today will cheer for someone else tomorrow. What endures is the quiet testimony of your life. Did you live with integrity when no one was watching? Did you honor your word when it cost you? Did you put others before yourself when it was inconvenient? These are not headlines, but they are the substance of a lasting reputation. Consider the people you admire most. chances are, it isn't because they were the richest or the most famous. It's because they lived in a way that touched your heart. Maybe they sacrificed for their family. Maybe they were consistent in their kindness. Maybe they showed strength when life was difficult. That's why their memory lingers, even when the details of their RA fade away. Their daily actions told a story about their values, and that story became their legacy. We should never underestimate the power of small choices. The decision to be honest in a minor matter may seem trivial, but it reinforces your character. The decision to encourage someone, even with a few words, can be remembered for a lifetime. The choice to do the right thing when it's difficult may not make the news, but it will echo in the lives of those around you. Every action contributes to the narrative others will tell about you. The truth is, you are writing your legacy every single day, whether you realize it or not. Every conversation, every habit, every response to difficulty is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. The question is not whether you will leave a legacy. You will. The real question is, what kind of legacy will it be? Will people say you lived with integrity? Or will they say you cut corners? Will they say you lifted others? Or will they say you only cared about yourself? Will they say your presence inspired peace and strength? Or will they say your presence was heavy with negativity? The answers to these questions are being written right now, in the ordinary moments of your daily life. That's why we must pay attention to how we live, not just to what we achieve, because while achievements can be forgotten, the way you lived will not. Success is temporary, but character is permanent. A medal will tarnish, but integrity shines forever. So if you want to be remembered, live every day in a way worth remembering. Let your habits reflect your values. Let your words build others up. Let your actions match the principles you claim to believe. Because at the end of the day, it is not the size of your accomplishments that will echo into the future, the consistency of your example. Daily actions define legacy. And when people think back on your life, they may not recall every detail of what you did, but they will remember how you lived, and that memory will be the story of your legacy. When you think about the span of a human life, it is humbling to realize how much of it will eventually fade into memory. The promotions, the trophies, the degrees on the wall, the applause of the crowd, all of it loses its sharpness with time. What seemed monumental in one season becomes a distant story in the next. Yet in the middle of this fading landscape, there is one thing that never seems to vanish: integrity. Integrity outlives recognition. Recognition is sweet, no doubt. It feels good to be noticed, to be celebrated, to have our achievements praised by others. But recognition is temporary. It is tied to circumstances, to moments in time, and often to the short attention span of society. Integrity, on the other hand, is permanent. It becomes a part of who you are, a thread woven through every decision and every relationship. When the applause has gone silent, integrity continues to echo. Think about the people you admire most, not the celebrities or the business titans, but the individuals you personally respect. Maybe it was a teacher who went the extra mile, a mentor who believed in you, or a family member who lived with honesty and humility. Chances are, what you remember is not their resume, but their character. You don't recall the list of tasks they completed, but you vividly remember the consistency of their example. That is the power of integrity. It imprints itself on the hearts of people long after details are forgotten. Living with integrity does not always bring recognition. In fact, it may at times cost you recognition. Doing the right thing when no one is watching rarely earns applause, but it builds a reputation that no award can match. Taking the harder path when shortcuts are available may not look impressive to the world, but it strengthens the foundation of your life in ways no title ever could. Recognition might put your name in lights for a moment, but integrity writes your story in stone. And here's the beautiful paradox. Integrity often creates a ripple effect far greater than recognition ever could. You may never know who is watching you, who is being influenced by your choices, who is quietly inspired by the way you carry yourself. Integrity doesn't just build your life, it shapes the lives of those around you. Recognition might win you fans, but integrity builds you followers. Students and legacy bearers, the danger, of course, is to chase recognition at the expense of integrity. In our world today, it is tempting to measure life by likes, views, or applause. But if you lose integrity in the pursuit of recognition, you have traded something eternal for something temporary. And that trade always leaves you empty. Recognition without integrity is like a candle without a flame. It looks good for a moment, but offers no lasting light. Instead, choose the path of consistency. Do what is right even when it is not noticed. Treat people with respect even when they cannot repay you. Honor your word even when it costs you. These choices may not bring immediate recognition, but they build a life of credibility. They make you the kind of person others trust, admire, and remember. Integrity is the invisible hand that writes your legacy. At the end of the day, the question is not whether people will recognize you, but how they will remember you. The world forgets accomplishments, but it remembers character. People may not recall the details of what you built, but they will remember if you built it honestly. They may not remember the wealth you accumulated, but they will remember the generosity you displayed. They may not remember the words you spoke, but they will remember the way you lived. So live a life anchored in integrity, because while recognition dies with time, integrity stands the test of generations. Long after the spotlight has moved on, long after the applause has faded, long after your name has been replaced on the office door, the way you lived will continue to speak. Integrity is the one achievement that outlives recognition, and it is the only one truly worth striving for. We live in a world that constantly measures success by results, by the size of the paycheck, the length of the resume, or the number of achievements stacked up like trophies on a shelf. And while results have their place, while they can be markers of discipline, effort, and skill, they are not the measure of a life well lived. When all is said and done, when the applause fades and the records are broken by someone else, what remains is not the list of results you produced, but the relationships you built along the way. Think about it. The boss who hit every quarterly target but treated his team with disrespect will be remembered not for his performance, but for his lack of humanity. The teacher who didn't always have the perfect lesson plan, but gave her students confidence and hope will be remembered for a lifetime. The parent who never earned $1 million but invested time, love, and patience into their children will be remembered far longer than the parent who brought home paychecks but never showed affection. Results are temporary. Relationships are eternal. People don't talk about your achievements at your funeral. They talk about your character. They share stories about the laughter you sparked, the encouragement you gave, the kindness you showed. They recall the small moments, the times you listened when they needed to be heard, the times you lifted them when they were down, the times you stood by them when everyone else walked away. Those are the memories that become the true legacy of a life. Results matter in business. They keep companies alive, they move progress forward, they build reputations, but relationships matter in life. And life is far bigger than business. It is far bigger than the next project or the next milestone. Success without relationships is hollow. Achievements without connection leave you empty. What good is building an empire if no one wants to sit at the table with you? What good is winning the race if you have no one to celebrate with when you cross the finish line? The secret is this: relationships amplify results. When you build trust, when you show kindness, when you honor others, your influence expands, and people want to work with you, support you, and follow you. Results gained at the expense of relationships are fragile, but results born from strong relationships last and multiply. You may hit the numbers alone, but together with others, you can go beyond numbers and create something that truly matters. So what does this mean for the way we live? It means choosing kindness when irritation is easier. It means showing patience when frustration rises. It means offering encouragement instead of criticism, listening instead of lecturing, helping instead of ignoring. It means valuing people not as tools to reach your goals, but as souls to honor and cherish. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I treat people well? Did I make someone's life a little brighter, a little lighter, a little more hopeful? If the answer is yes, then whether or not you hit every result, your day was a success. You see, results will one day be replaced. Someone else will surpass your records. Someone else will take your position. Someone else will hold the titles you once held. But no one can erase the way you lived and the way you loved. No one can take away the impact of your relationships. Those impressions endure. Those ripples extend far beyond your time here. Relationships matter more than results, not because results don't count, but because relationships are what people remember. And if you live your life with this truth in mind, you will discover that results come and go, but the richness of your relationships will outlast them all. That is the true measure of a life well lived. Life has an interesting way of revealing what matters most. We spend so much of our time chasing achievements, collecting titles, and building resumes, yet when people talk about us years later, it's rarely those things they mention. They don't remember the size of our paycheck or the number of awards we earned. What they recall is the way we lived, the way we carried ourselves, the way we treated others, the way we made them feel. Applause is temporary, but character leaves a permanent echo. Think about it. When you remember a teacher, a mentor, or a friend who shaped you, chances are you don't remember every word they said or every task they completed. You remember their spirit. You remember how they made you feel valued. You remember the way they showed up when it mattered most. That's the real measure of a life, not just the doing, but the being. It's easy to be seduced by the spotlight. Recognition feels good, no doubt about it, but applause is fickle. Today the crowd cheers for you, and tomorrow the same crowd is cheering for someone else. If your identity is built only on what others celebrate, you'll spend your life chasing approval that never lasts. To live beyond applause means shifting your focus from achievement alone to the kind of person you're becoming. Your character is the part of you that doesn't vanish with time. You can lose your job, but you can't lose integrity unless you give it away. You can fail at a business, but you don't fail at kindness. You can fall short in one season of life, but you never fall short when you choose compassion, honesty, and courage. Those are the things people remember. Those are the things that shape your legacy. Living beyond applause also requires us to recognize that our daily actions matter more than our occasional victories. The world is not shaped by one big success, but by the small, consistent ways we show up each day. Did you greet people with respect? Did you keep your promises? Did you treat the janitor with the same dignity as the CEO? These small moments often matter more than the grand ones because they reveal who you are when no one is clapping. Another truth is this: people are deeply impacted by how you make them feel. Someone may forget your impressive presentation, but they won't forget the encouragement you gave them before they stepped on stage. They may not recall the exact details of your project, but they'll always remember how patient you were when teaching them. What lingers in memory is the humanity, not the statistics. That's why living beyond applause means valuing relationships above results. Too many people trade integrity for recognition, forgetting that recognition is rented, while integrity is owned. If you lose yourself in the pursuit of applause, you've lost more than the applause could ever give you. But when you hold true to your values, when you live honestly, love generously, and serve sincerely, you gain something applause can never buy. Respect that lasts long after you're gone. Living beyond applause doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means anchoring ambition in something deeper. Go ahead, pursue excellence, chase mastery, and achieve big goals, but let those achievements flow from the right foundation. Build success on integrity, not shortcuts. Build wealth on contribution, not exploitation. Build influence on service, not manipulation. When you live this way, your achievements become more than applause. They become a testament to the way you lived. Someday the applause will fade. The spotlight will dim. The achievements will be forgotten by all but a few. But the story of your life, the example of your character, will live on in the people you touched. They'll remember how you made them feel, the courage you showed, the kindness you extended, the faith you lived by. That is the true reward of living beyond applause. So don't live for the noise of the crowd. Live for the quiet legacy you leave in hearts and minds. Because applause dies in the moment, but a life well lived speaks forever.